Welcome to today's webcast, Last Tech Out and Home Certification. I'm Mike Roebuck, Senior Editor with CED. Today's webcast is sponsored by VeEX and hosted by CED. Before we get underway, just a couple of quick programming notes to go over. There's a button on your screen that will make this presentation larger, a little easier on the eyes. Also, you can download a PDF version of the presentation and really ask questions throughout. This webcast was designed to answer your specific questions. So ask questions throughout, and then we'll spend the last 15, 20 minutes going over those questions, but definitely submit those in, any concerns you have. And lastly, the webcast will be archived on CED's website probably sometime tomorrow afternoon. So today's panelists, Mark Hood, last year Pacesetter Award winner here with CED with Suddenlink Communications, Cyril Morel, CEO and President of VeEX. Those are our two go-to guys today, so we're going to start off with a presentation by Mark. Mark, it's all yours.
Thanks, Michael. Getting started, well, the presentation overview, let's roll through that. So two focuses through this presentation. First, of course, is Last Tech Out, followed by home certification. And through Last Tech Out, we're going to go through defining the process of Last Tech Out, what are the purposes for the program, expected results, launching a successful program, very important, and then finally keeping it visible, one of the biggest challenges. So after that, on to home certification and setting the standards, managing and supervising the program, meter platforms, reporting, and test results. So defining Last Tech Out. Getting down to it, it's the BBT's responsibility for the integrity, of a couple of things, both the point of connection and the drop plant for each work order that he's rolled on and completed. The program, again, through daily fulfillment routes, upgrading the drop plant, very important, access to taps and tap ports, including all BBTs. Don't leave anyone out. BBTs and your contractors that are rolling on your fulfillment routes. And then finally, keeping the program alive with all markets within the company. Very important. Talking about the purpose of Last Tech Out, the purpose of the program is achieving those ongoing efforts in maintaining and upgrading. Making necessary repairs to the drop plant, requires each BBT to review what your Last Tech Out requirements are and taking action where that drop plant fails and falls short of your requirements. Very important to have the purpose defined within your BBTs and your contractors so they understand the program. Expected results. Of course, repeating or reducing repeated truck rolls on trouble calls, and then reducing those those trouble calls on installs and upgrades. Addressing drop plant and tap security needs in the system through your fulfillment routes, through your fulfillment work orders. And again, reducing calls into your call center, and improving overall performance and reliability and improving customer satisfaction. It all rolls up together with a good Last Tech Out program. So launching a successful program, first of all, is communicating Last Tech Out throughout the company. Operation meetings at all levels. So, starting at that one level associated to the weekly or however your current broadband tech meetings are, making sure that it's well communicated and understood within the ranks. Adding a self-QC list is very important as well. Onto the BBTs, there's two pieces to this that we at Suddenlink utilize, and one of them is on our QC techs that go out and do quality control inspections. They're looking at those Last Tech Out requirements and having that part of their list. And then adding another piece that at every job that's completed by the BBT or by the contractor, they're doing a self-QC list, and they're answering those questions associated with Last Tech Out. It brings it home on every single job. And again, Last Tech Out structures for success, one of the things you got to be focused on is what your requirements are, that they're not too big to achieve, at the work orders. So you really focus on those points. So the points I'm talking about this is a sample list that's in front of you now, and I'll roll through that. The things that we do is we look for where drops are properly bonded at every work order. We look at proper identification and tagging, on or near the tap. We make sure that we take advantage of making sure that all the ports are terminated at that tap while that tech or that contractor is at that location. And then all of our boxes, or be it our pedestals or MDU boxes, are locked. And we cover, our overall routing with our installation handbook and require that everything does follow that spec. Outside connections, we definitely want to put weather-sealed compression fittings with grommets, and then that we don't have any splices between pole hooks. We've completed and passed an ingress or an egress test. We've checked all our digital converters in the home or in the business to verify that they are all responding, and that doesn't become an additional truck roll after we leave. And then we conduct a home certification test, and we pass that test. And then, of course, all external drop splitters are sheltered within the SDU box. So it's a part of an upgrade piece if that's lacking, or we want to bring everything up to standards by utilizing those daily routes. How do we keep it visible? How do we keep this alive? Not only do you keep it alive through your ongoing efforts with your reporting from the BBT level, the BBT weekly meetings, but you talk about it in your regional meetings, you talk about it in your corporate and tech ops meetings. It's a big part of the company's policy with all our truck rolls. And then we also hang these last tech out posters in every tech room within all of our markets. And another added piece is adding a little card that can either be placed in the truck or on the technician's key rings. It's just a reminder of what those last tech out requirements are. So after going through and working with our teams and creating our last tech out, we did add here recently, we added actually to the last tech out program was a home certification a while back, and as one of the bullets to that. Going back through home certification, defining the process of home certification. It's designed to test customers' premises wiring. We want to assure all our services are delivered and performing within our standards within the company, and through this program, this is one way to certify that outlet before that DBT or contractor leaves that home. Utilizing our daily routes again to perform these certifications through all of our required work orders. And then, of course, any failing tests are not uploaded first. They're corrected by the DBT or contractor, at least back to what their the level of capability that they have typically to the tap. So setting standards for success. This is a very important part of our program. Was creating a committee early on to develop our testing requirements. What are the parameters? What do we test? Our committee is based on tech ops directors and managers from all regions within our company. So, we met, and we met continually, I guess, for a period of time and worked through what we felt were good standards to start out with in a program and create success through it, not overwhelming it in the beginning by making everything so tight that it was going to be a harder start. So we created this standard, or this committee, and began meeting, and then we came up on our parameters as a group, and then we continued on from there. So, key things in that standards committee was, what do we test? Install, upgrades, restarts, and trouble calls were our work order types that we focused on. And, the second part was, identifying locations where we test at. One of the things that we looked at was focusing on what a BBT can complete without adding too much testing time and without causing inconvenience to the customer. That was key because, when you set up a standard of testing with auto testing capabilities in all of the different FLM products that are out there today, it doesn't take much to develop a large test, a 10-minute test, for example. So we looked back and we targeted a 4-minute or under test to make success, because every test you do, you've added that much time to your work order types: install, upgrade, restarts, and trouble calls. The other part was, how many outlets do we test? So, through working this out, again, at a 4-minute test, passing test, we're requiring 1 outlet for the home certification test. What that outlet encompasses typically is what outlet were we working on for that work order. So, for example, if I have a trouble call and there's focus on 1 outlet in the home, that's the outlet I'm testing. If I have an install, restart, or upgrade, I'm focusing on 1 outlet, that's the outlet I'm testing. If I am working on multiple outlets, then I leave that decision to the BBT or contractor at that location. We definitely teach and say, test the extremities of the drop plant to encompass a good portion of what you're testing. By doing this, we have that 4 to 5 minute time frame on testing. When it takes longer, of course, is whenever you're failing a test and you're having to back up and do some troubleshooting associated to your fail. Again, focus the testing is from our standards committee was looking at, what do we test to assure that BBT and that contractor can actually be successful at troubleshooting it back to the tap. So key things to test, is analog channel video levels. We didn't test our audio levels in there. Basically, most of those come from the head end. We did first start that program early on with that and quickly identified we need to focus on success for that person out there to have to achieve that passing test. Digital channel power levels, pre and post VERs, MERs on your digital QAMs. And then, of course, the modem test, covering your DOCSIS forward channels, your power receives, your pre and post MER, VERs, and your transmit levels. And that's actually our standards, but we do have some regions out there that have adopted adding the VoIP test to the auto testing. Of course, anywhere we currently have phone providing. Some of them have ping, throughput, CNR, and hum that can be added, just still focused on the time it takes to achieve that auto test. The return spectrum testing for ingress. This is a very important vital test for assuring that we're not introducing any ingress back into the system through your drop plant on work orders that you've already got a truck rolled out to. So we don't have that as a standard today across the company, but we do have one region that has adopted it, and we're looking at integrating that return spectrum test into our home cert test, as long as we can develop that program where I complete that outlet, and then I'm also completing it at the tap, so I encompass all of the wiring in the house. And of course, that's done after everything's been connected, so you get a good test and good results based on everything that's been touched. This also works well for reducing those truck rolls for your maintenance techs, your suite techs out there, rolling back on drop plant issues where we just recently had either a trouble call, install, restart, or upgrade. Test plans for the signal level meters. This is very important, looking at locations. So, your test plans have to encompass, anything that BBT or contractor can, is running into as far as a not home or something of that nature. So we're always going to test at the outlet when we're inside the home. If there's no access in the home, we're at ground block testing. If we're all the way back to the tap, that's typically a failed test that we take all the way back to the tap. We develop those type of locations in the meter plans for testing. And then the other part is adding enough tests that are associated to what services are offered. So, for example, limited basic services are trap services. Secondly, there's limited with data trap services, there's data-only trap services. So not only do we build an outlet test and a ground block test, we also build associated trap tests for the outlet location and associated trap tests for the ground block location, so that we cover anything that BBT and contractor encounters at the work orders that he comes up to. There's really no reason to fail unless there's an impairment. And actually at that point, what we kind of live by is there's no reason to fail unless there's impairment from the tap back, and then that's passed on up for either the higher level BBT or the maintenance tech, depending on, and it does show them that there's problems on the plant. So again, setting standards for success, testing parameters. Here's an example of some outlet location minimum standards that you can look at. When we first started out, one of the key things is, we really did learn from having a little tighter parameters and having a much higher fail rate. And we said, the key is let's get the minimum standards set to where, we can achieve success on not only uploads, but passing to that point, because this does so much and it identifies so much within your BBT levels, your contractor levels when you first start out. You bring those minimum standards into play. If they're failing that, we definitely have a problem. Once we achieve good success, because you'll have a lot of training, a lot of things will be identified by your supervisors with their teams and whatnot on what support they need to do with specific groups of their teams, and bringing them up to knowledge levels that we're in troubleshooting and things of that nature, where they can get better and better. And then we start tweaking those numbers and tightening them up to have a better success on our certification testing. And through that practice, we saw that we've achieved much more success. So new launches, brand new launches as we began the program, do show what a challenge it can be to start a home certification program. We had some very low upgrade and passing rates, even at, setting these standards out there, setting all the requirements in front of the teams. And, typically first 3 to 6 months, we're looking at that average being well below what we typically want to set our goals for. So I think in most cases I was averaging about 55% upload, 50% passing when we first kicked it out, which really is an eye-opener to what happens without a home certification program. What do we really know about what's being left behind at these all these different work orders that we're rolling fulfillment techs out to? And this really was an eye-opener for me as well. So, going from that perspective, we kind of looked at a good starting test upload percentage of 80%, and then a passing goal of about 85%, and just starting out. But at the same time, taking those percentages at the system level and the region level, but not at the BBT and contractor level. I think starting out with any program like this at the contractor and the BBT level, it's 100% of the required work order types to upload. We did learn early on is that, if you give a BBT and a contractor, in some cases, an 80% requirement, then they'll pick and choose the ones that are failing to not be one that they upload. So you want to be aware of that snag right there. So we definitely require 100% there. 80% passing going into it gives a little bit of lessen. I guess it lessens the stress on that BBT, because what we also identified is a lot of the teams out there are lacking some of the knowledge on the ability to troubleshoot QAM signals and things like that, where we had failing errors. Gave the supervisors time and gives them time to focus on the fails and focus on that individual and support and mentor that individual through daily success or daily focus, and then working with him to bring his knowledge levels up as far as troubleshooting. And you really start identifying some of the individuals out there that start seeing these tests, and the problem with the upload percentages was they didn't want to tell their supervisor that they didn't know what that was with a failing QAM or something of that nature, or how to troubleshoot it. So working this out really becomes much more successful instead of just laying the hammer down in a sense. So achieving goals and managing and supervising the program. One big thing is from even from a corporate or a regional perspective, is bringing the local system manager and supervisors into the program and understanding it and buying into it, because it is a challenge when you first kick these off to get success. It takes a lot of effort. It is a change, and it's a change a lot on the BBT and contractor levels to be able to be handing you all of those gamut of testing, at every job they go to. So we look at it. It takes daily and weekly review of upload activities and results. And when I speak of daily, I talk to a lot of supervisors out there, and they look at ones that are very successful are monitoring their uploads throughout the day 5 and 6 times. And when they're, seeing either a missed upload or a failed upload come up, they're in communication with that BBT at that point, and being able to coach and support that individual and go back if it takes it and solve the problem and bring their level of knowledge up on what it was. Some cases involving dispatchers to assist those supervisors as well to verify that before closing orders, if that's the case, that there is a successful upload sent up, and then on communicating to the supervisor. So here's another aid, I guess I'd say, with supporting supervisors and in some cases dispatchers and understanding failed uploaded test results. So I know in the VeEX markets, or in the VeEX program, there's an auto email. Anytime a failed test is uploaded, we set that up at auto emails, not only some of the summary of the test and who it was and whatnot, and the location even, to the supervisor, but it also has a PDF associated to it with all the results. So this supervisor's in the field working wherever and has that availability of receiving email. He would receive that failed result with, a full gamut of everything that was tested and what failed, giving him the opportunity to to contact that BBT or contractor and say, I see you failed on a couple of your analog levels. You did upload that test, and they're able to go back and support that. This is a very good tool right here for really helping the supervisors be more successful with managing their team through home certification. So some other things that we've done that's helped us get the program off the ground as well is adding the results to our BBT scorecards. Really brought home that this is a part of my daily plan, this is a part of my daily requirements. Another thing is supporting meter profiles, channel and test, or the channel plans and the test plans. One of the things that we saw early on was that changes can be made to your QAM modulations or your active channels, EIAs or analogs, wherever they are, and the home cert plans may not have been added into that process. Which if it's a test plan out there, immediately everyone within your market is failing it. If there's not, the best thing to do is have a plan ahead of time with the change control or whatever the process you currently have that's associated to making channel plan changes within your markets. Other than that, it's got to be communication, and it's got to be focused on immediately. What happens if you don't, and we've seen this in the past, we change the an analog to a digital, and all of a sudden everyone in the market's failing it. If it's not attended to quickly, then they lose focus and they lose that they kind of lose. I'm at a loss for words there, trying to figure out what word I'm trying to think of, but confidence. There you go, confidence, and in the program. So the key thing is don't allow them to lose confidence. Make it important. The other thing is when a meter goes down and there's not a meter to replace that, if a meter's in repair, that BBT cannot. A couple things can happen. Is in some cases, if your reporting is not accurate within your servers, then he's still counted as doing required uploads, and again he loses that confidence level in the program. Other than that, if you have having spare meters when you have a home cert program in place is very vital to where you can keep everything smooth and running operating the way it should. Adding topics to tech meetings, keeping that on every tech meeting there ought to be a home cert section of that tech meeting that we're going to review results and needed support. And a key thing is recognizing the BBTs and contractors with their achievement of reaching goals and making that a big deal. Posting that kind of information on your tech room walls and things of that nature really goes far. Regional and corporate focus, again, is adding to corporate reporting, adding that home certification results by the system level to the corporate reporting. Adding the topic to your tech op meetings and discussing results and needed focus, that's a very, very important bullet. Monitoring the performance and reviewing goals, again, very important. Supporting issues with the vendor products to include both the gear and the server software. So that one itself is, again, it takes an individual or multiple individuals working directly with those vendors, be it if it's a JDSU support or a Sunrise or a VeEX or whatever it is, that you've got a relationship with that group, that team, that tech support with the software associated to your server and your reporting systems. Whenever there's an issue, that it gets addressed as quickly as possible. And then recognizing system achievements and making that a big deal from that level in itself, from a regional and corporate perspective. Again, reporting. So some of the platforms out there, they work a little different. So I'm thinking about a couple of platforms where you're going to upload your billing system data, your work order numbers, account numbers to the server, so that it again pushes those out to the BBT and contractors' meters. This is very important for if not to match your reporting. They're typing those numbers in. So one of the key things is you want to make sure you've got that IT support for uploading those files. Make sure that's a regular basis. Another key element in that is, I think in the beginning we were doing one upload a day and things like that. Well, you would miss all of your changes that happen to trouble calls, for example, or even installs and things of that nature if it has to do with reschedules or cancels. So we moved to every hour frequency on uploading, so that every time a meter or a BBT syncs his meter, he's got fresh data. If there's a job been moved off or a job specifically been added, then he doesn't have to name that job and fat finger that, or have the potential of fat finger in that and not matching your home certification reporting. That's pretty key. Of course, VeEX, and I'm not sure any other platform out there has this yet, but VeEX does have a integration with a workforce management system that we use, TOLA, for example, where there's no need to name the work orders or upload files or anything like that to have accuracy on the text meters. And we've seen a great improvement from that, from misnaming, for example, any changes that weren't updated to the meter in time and things of that nature. It's a workforce management system associated with the meter, and it's just a matter of tapping a button and it pushes all that current information over to the meter for the home certification testing, including account numbers and work order numbers and addresses and things of that nature. And that has been a great improvement over the program. So, reporting structures, what I talked a little bit about earlier, supervisors and daily reporting from yesterday. As you can see, there's an example of a yesterday's report on here, that they can look at every morning before they start their day and say, this is the overall success of what happened yesterday. If something's not to par, then getting their day started, they can, manage by exceptions and support that individual that might not have hit that 100% upload requirement, or that had, more fails than they should have, and may not have communicated, and you've seen it the next day. So this is pretty good. Most all of our supervisors within the company really look at yesterday reports to keep this program running smooth from day to day. Month-to-date reports, again, are very important so that you can focus on the movement going throughout the month, looking at your final month-end scores, for example, that are reported at the regional and the corporate levels. You have plenty of time to manage that as long as you have access to these types of reports. This slide is really focused on kind of some structures for the different levels. System managers, more looking at a weekly or month-to-date reports that go down to the BBT detail by supervisors, so that those system managers can see if they have multiple supervisors, they're looking at the detail within their team and they can support their supervisors from that perspective. And then also looking at the month-end reports that are summarized by supervisor. Regional leaders, again, looking at weekly, month-to-date reports so they can keep on top of it. Again, at a system summary, and not typically, we don't have them typically down to a detailed unless that reports need to be pulled. Month-end reports, again, at the system summary level for those regional leaders, and then corporate reporting is month-end by system. That's a structure that seems to work well for us to be able to maintain and achieve the success that we're currently enjoying. So test results, reviewing results with your BBTs, that again is very important in bringing the levels up, the knowledge levels of that BBT, understanding what areas that they're struggling in as far as, achieving failed results and trying to, get those corrected back to the tap. Access to the uploaded test. This is also important. Repeat service calls on failed tests at the tap, things like that. So if you have a policy out there that where you're bringing a failed test at the tap up, anytime a BBT or a contractor leaves a fulfillment BBT or contractor leaves that location, then that is a document that shows what was going on at least at the tap location. For your next level BBT that's going to be coming in there, or repeated, specifically maintenance techs as well, if they're coming in, or it be a whatever level BBT that is that's going to support the fulfillment teams, that he has that document in hand prior to. So, how do we get that? There's a lot of different functionalities out there today you can take advantage of. Of course, your CPE and your health tools is one to have that available. Auto emails, like we talked about earlier, they can also be forwarded over to that level of technician for that job. There's other things that the fulfillment techs can do with the stored test on their meters. They can export to USB flash drives and print them off. Those type of things, printed copies. So coming up with a good way, not only that once the test goes up and it's failed, that we have ability to communicate that to the next person that rolls to that house to correct that problem, especially under a failed situation. So that's my presentation for today, Michael. I'll pass it back on to you.
Okay, Mark, thanks. All right, so we're on to the Q&A part of the webcast today. And this first one came up during Mark's presentation, but Cyril, I'm going to go ahead and direct it at you, and then Mark, if you want to chime in as well. Should all outlets be tested?
Well, if you have a time, you should test all the outlets. The problem is it's always a question of time. What we have seen is the two ways of doing that. One of them is to test the outlet that is the farthest from the ground block or splitter. So that will be the one that has the less performance. Or the other one is in the second installation, when you go back to a home to add services, you test on the outlet that you're going to install the new services. But of course, if you add the ability to test all the outlets that you distribute in the home, it will add, of course, enhancement to the service and much more happier customer.
Mark, do you want to add anything on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's that was a challenge coming into the program, and it had to do with the reality of being successful and also keeping your routes within perspective. If we're testing, give you an example, if we're testing one outlet typically on a good pass, and also let me back up, we always teach prior to running a home certification test, use your SLM and look at, these 4 channels, or these 3 channels, whatever they are that it's within your program, to assure that those channels are in good shape. Then go on to this 4-minute auto test. So if you're typically going to spend 4 to 5 minutes on a home certification test. So if you look at a 4-outlet scenario and you're adding 20 minutes to that work order, then that becomes very bigger challenge to have production that you're needing to accomplish throughout the day as well. So looking at one test or one outlet to be tested seems to be a pretty good success for us. So I think we're achieving, like I said in the program earlier, a big portion of the the drop plant through the from that location through your ground block or demarc location all the way up to the tab. So I'm pretty pleased with the one outlet test.
Okay. Next question. Again, I think this is one that both of you can talk about, because I'm assuming that it probably changes from operator to operator. Does the tech need to take all repair actions while there, or can some things be noted and scheduled for later actions by himself or other departments? Cyril, you want to go ahead and handle that one first?
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting question. The thing is, it's not guaranteed that the technician on site will have the ability to solve all the issues that he sees. So normally the rule is try to do the best you can and see if you can see a problem directly based on the result that you have seen. Once you have found the problem and fix it, rerun your home cert to see if it passes or not. If you get to a point that you believe it's a little bit further from the house and it's within the network, then you need to kind of close your ticket or suspend it and then dispatch it to maintenance. And that's what Mark was explaining in the presentation, that actually you have tools today with some of the solutions out there that allow you to pass all this information directly to the maintenance guys, and when they arrive on site, they already have all the information and they know what was wrong with this specific installation.
Mark, anything to add on that one?
Oh, yeah, I'll add a little bit to it. I mean, this is a good question. This is a big challenge. But looking at it from a last tech out perspective, for example, we require all those things that I showed and talked about earlier to be achieved at the work orders. But, give you an example of, looking at the wiring and having that home run wiring and the type of things that are required within our installation manual. Sometimes, time doesn't, in that text route, time doesn't exist for that if it's bringing it up to specs. But at the same time, there's no impairments or problems associated to the customer services. In those cases, SROs can be entered for a rollback and allowing time to bring that customer's house up to spec. That does require a second truck roll in that situation, but we didn't put that person and that person's route or another customer in jeopardy getting through his day. But at the same time, we're not passing that up, and we're bringing our drop plan up to standards. Very, very important. I think a lot of things I see out there is I don't have time to bring this up to standards, which will, give longevity to that installation and better, and better performance over time, right? So going back, it's worth that additional truck roll, because over a period of time with that kind of practice in place, you're going to bring the level, of integrity of your drop plant up to your standards as a company. So you do two things with it. One is you don't, really hold the tech prisoner there to say you've got to do every one. We've seen that where they don't understand in some cases the definition of last tech out, and they'll stay the extra additional hours to completely rewire a 4-outlet or so house when there was no impairments at the point, but we fell some other customer appointments in jeopardy. So it has to be a thing that's involving the dispatcher, looking at your routes and those type of things. So it's a piece that involves multiple people, but it's very important that you stick to your practices with last tech out to get home certification if there's a problem. On the home certification side of this question is a failing test, again, back to the tap, or if that should be what the policy is, then, leaving that can be a problem, because if you're failing based on your parameters, then you possibly got impairments that customer's suffering from their services. So, I mean, it's about the supervisor supporting it, helping out, sending someone else over to help out. I think in most cases you have to make that call, and you have to have your dispatcher and your supervisors involved.
Okay, here's a question that came in. Mark, why don't you answer this first, and then Cyril, maybe you can talk about this same information with other cable operators, maybe just in general terms. But for you, Mark, what kind of performance improvement have you seen on repeat rates after introducing the last tech out and home certification process?
So that's a good question, actually. I mean, we've going through getting the program on board, it takes time. In getting all of getting around all of the correct, or not getting around, I'd say, but assuring that you have all of the tests, home certification tests, available for trap services, for example. I think when we first rolled out, we had more or less the outlet, ground block, and tap, and then we recognized fails that were just based on trap services. So once you kind of get all that worked out, we're at the point right now, which I'll go back to say our reporting is in our, multiple reports, but our monthly reporting from a corporate perspective is in our KPI reports that we roll out tech outs every month. And a thing that I'm just now starting to work on is that failed test result to passing test result based on repeated truck rolls and trouble call after install. So, even as we speak, I mean, that's one of the target things on my project list, to start putting that together and then delivering that kind of report down to the system levels to just show the differences between a failed and a passing. It takes quite a bit of time to make sure, in some cases, to make sure that you have all the things worked out throughout the company to get accuracy in your reporting on results to trouble call after install and home search. So I don't have a specific percentage of saved truck rolls today, but that's something that's on my list to target within the next few months.
Okay. All right. So, Cyril, here's a question for you. Do CSRs get visibility to these work orders?
Can you repeat the question?
Do customer service representatives get visibility to these work orders?
Yes, we do. It depends on the level of integration that you want to do. Some customers, they want to have a compartmentalized ways of doing things, so they don't. But normally, we have the ability to make that open to them if they want to see that. And so, yes, we do. And we have all the results and so forth that have been tested, if it passes, if it's failing, and what can we do with that, and take the result and push it to another technician if we need to.
Okay. All right. So, Mark, how important is it to review the KPI regularly?
Oh, I think that's critical to the success of the program. team, the reporting is, once you put all the pieces together without the reporting, it just doesn't seem like you can ever move this thing. So it goes from that daily level to that weekly to that that month to date, especially as you get up, and then having the what we consider our KPI level reporting is it puts our VPs and our directors in tune with where we are and where focus needs to be. What areas that we need to be focusing on more, and then it goes from there in the communication piece. But without that, you just don't know where you're at. You don't get that level of urgency up top.
All right, so the top question we have in the queue right now, why don't we give that to you, Cyril? Can the program detect analog and digital adjacent channel signal level separation and not note it as a fail?
Yes. I mean, all that is when you work on tuning your system. So the system gives you all these guidelines and all the things that you can look for. I mean, you can go to just looking at a simple level to going to make sure that you have the throughput associated with the config file that your customer gets on his modem to make sure that you get the right throughput for this customer. So there's a lot of flexibility on all the tests and the depth that you want to go for. Of course, the further you go in the analysis, the longer it takes to do all the analysis, so that's where you need to find the right balance. But you can do the analog/digital adjacent channel signal level separation as just as an information. There's actually a lot of parameters that we report that are just for information that we don't do a pass or fail on.
Mark, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, and I will say that, again, when we were in our learning stages and first started out, we actually had, we had audio video deltas and we had adjacent channels in our home cert testing, and we decided after, reviewing results that we saw, of course, audio video deltas associated to mainly head-in, and we had other processes for that with head-in techs and whatnot, and the other was adjacent channels and things like that. And typically adjacent channel levels could be, they definitely can be associated to the drop plant, but typically we were seeing more of them associated with the mainline plant, and decided that'd be a factor within, making that BBT contractor successful at moving through a home certification and being able to correct anything all the way back to the tap. So typically if we had an adjacent issue that severe, it was going to affect other things within the measurements that we were doing that would be in the drop plant, so we were successful with that, and we pulled it out to more or less move that back to associating to a maintenance issue.
Okay. All right, so we're just going to bounce back to you, Cyril. Currently, the company I work for uses ARIS and what they call whole house check. When a tech closes a call, it gives equipment levels on our laptops. Is this a standalone program to be used with existing workforce management tools, and what is the accuracy?
Well, the existing tool that we're talking about in this presentation can work with any workforce out there. It's just a question of how successful you want to be and how much time you have to do the integration, because there's always integration to be done. So to answer the question properly, yes, it can work with that. Normally what we see with the tools that similar to the ARIS one, and with either homegrown or the one made by ARIS, and with a few other companies that do that, this tool provides you a snapshot of the devices that you put in the home. So this is a very good complementary tool, I would say, to have, because it gives you an idea of what you have in the home, and this tool, these devices that you left at the customers. However, they don't give you the full picture in terms of the testing, because they are not test device, they are network device. So complementing the two by having a home cert attached to that and merging the two reports together, then now you have a super home cert of your house and what was really happening in the house. So I would say yes, and it can be made a reality.
Okay. All right, so then back to you, Mark. When you decided to do home certification, how long did it take to get all the BBTs upgraded to the same meter?
We currently have, within our company, we run in 3 platforms. We work with JDSU, we work with Sunrise, and we work with VeEX. And when we very first started out, it was you know, a combination of JDSU and Sunrise, and then we've recently, within the last year and a half, integrated VeEX. So as far as time to roll, within, you know, when we started the program, when we back up, we pretty much had Sunrise meters and JDSU meters in most of our markets. So, you know, it's just a matter of getting the program rolled out, not as much as upgrading or getting new meters in place. So as far as, you know, what we're doing today with the VeEX platform is integrating that, you know, within our markets. And, you know, we probably look from that perspective of about 2 years, 2.5 years of bringing that level of meter, that level of advanced meter into most of the hands, you know, within our company.
Okay. Cyril, I've got a big picture question for you here. What is the cost versus ROI of deploying a home certification program?
Well, I think you have the one that you can see, like, and it's not really a ROI. I think it's more a wake-up call. The wake-up call would be within a week that you put the program in place and the tech has their meters and they start to go out, is the realization that they do not test. And you starting to have 0 upload, 5% upload, 1% upload on your KPI reports, and you realize that nobody tests. To really see how return on investment with a platform deploy, it takes about and assuming that the company that is deploying, like Mark stated a few times, does play the game of putting effort and emphasis behind the program, I would say about 6 months you should see direct result. And then after that, after 6 months on, is how often do you review a KPI report and how often do you tune your program to make sure that people are aware of that? And I would say within a year you should be about 90% of passing and success.
Okay. Mark, you want to add anything from your experience there with Suddenlink on that question?
Sure. You know, going back to the slide that I was mentioning, you know, 3 to 6 months, you know, you really don't have that great of percentages of uploads and pass rates. The eye-opener we got out of this was the knowledge levels of a lot of the BBTs and you know, afraid in some cases, you know, where we weren't getting those uploads, they just didn't want to provide that kind of information up to that supervisor level because they were worried they would understand that they were missing some of that knowledge. Let me explain this to you. I mean, our company is very, very aggressive in training programs, very aggressive in SCTE certifications, with us being 100% certified across the company from an SCTE perspective. But even at that, you know, with that, this program itself, when we started rolling this out, a lot of the supervisors had the ability to use this tool to understand the level of knowledge with the teams that they were working with and be able to coach and mentor and support those guys and bring their level of knowledge up, which turned into, you know, providing a much better customer service on the first truck roll. So when you look at it from an ROI perspective, you can look at it from saved truck rolls, of course, you know, through certifying and assuring you're not leaving an impairment that will cause you to roll back within, you know, a certain amount of time based on whatever it is. But the other thing that you almost, I don't really know how to put a cost on it right now, but you've got that supervisor's ability to really work with the specific individuals that are challenged, you know, because it comes out when they start rolling this up. I mean, you know, that was the thing that opened my eyes pretty quick, was where we were having high fail rates. You know, typically the guy didn't know how to troubleshoot that, and or gal, whatever it was, and that supervisor had that ability to work with them and bring their levels up. So that was worth a lot right there in itself.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. All right, well, we're into the final 5 minutes. We might go over a little bit. We're going to try and get as many of these answered as we can today. If for some reason we don't get to them, the guys are going to have your email addresses and everything, so they can follow up with you offline. But we're going to keep working away on this list here. So, Cyril, back to you. What is your opinion on third-party or cloud storage for test certification data?
Well, that depends on what you mean by cloud storage, who you're using. I mean, it's a buzzword. Everybody talk about cloud storage. For me, personally, and for VeEX, what we believe is we're doing test and measurement. We're doing some serious business here. And having that in the cloud that anybody can go and tap into, we don't really want that because, as you can see from the presentation, there's a lot of personal information on all these KPI reports between technician name, technician IDs, and also customer name, customer address, customer phone number. So you don't want this information to be just stored in the cloud, but to come down to a little bit of an approach is what we have seen that you normally have two types of customers. You have a large customers that have their own IT group that is very structured, very big, and they are able to handle servers, databases, firewall, and all the good stuff. Then you have smaller MSOs that, for them, they would like to have a home cert. They would like to have these tools available to them, but they don't have IT infrastructure to do so. And actually what we do, so we do cloud services, but this is our cloud. And the servers and the home cert and so forth is in our cloud controlled by us, not in some third-party vendors. So it does work very well, and it's controlled by us, so we can guarantee you that there is no attack or leak of information outside of the server. But both are valid and they both work, especially nowadays with the internet and always on all the time, so there's not really a lot of problems. Where it comes a problem is if you want to have your service into a cloud and you want to integrate it with back office application that you have inside your network, when you have to create a bridge. And this bridge is, by experience, not easy to create. It's much easier to have the server into the same location.
Okay. All right. So here is a question for Mark, and I think you've already answered part of this, but I'm going to read the whole thing. How long has the program been in place? Data percentage on in-home failures and plant-related failures. Data on top 3 failure reasons.
We started the program about 4 years ago and started integrating it with the test gear that we had. Let me see. I didn't hear the rest of that.
It's the question at the bottom of the queue, but data percentage on in-home failures and plant-related failures, and data on top 3 failure reasons.
So
that might be too specific to answer. I don't know. If it is, we can get that one offline.
No, I just had to read through it for a second. From a percentage of data failures versus plant failures, I don't have that really well broke out. Looking at the failed reasons, I don't do a lot of reporting at this point on failed reasons. But what I can say is bringing it back to the pass-off, in other words, going to the tap, the majority of fails that we do, I look through a lot of the failed test results and stuff. We just don't do, at this point, let me say at this time, we don't do detailed reporting on what caused the fails, although that's being implemented today in development through the VeEX server. But so we can have that in the future. But looking at, the RF issues, failing issues, a lot of it that I've experienced have been around, low levels at the outlet location or failing, post errors. And that can be, it's depending on analog or QAM. So I'd say, from a data perspective, it's going to affect it as well. So I can't answer exactly which one is higher than the other, but I can say the majority of failures that we're having are in the drop plant, and they are associated to low levels and errors. Errors being one pretty big one.
All right, so we're up on our hour. So Mark, I'm going to ask you one more question that just came in, and then we're going to go back to Cyril for any final thoughts. Cyril, if you see any questions in there that you want to tackle before we sign off, or just any kind of final thoughts, we'll do those after Mark answers this question. You had JDSU and Sunrise prior to VeEX. So was VeEX the catalyst to driving this program?
So, no, we started out with Sunrise and JDSU, and we had the program in full swing. We integrated VeEX, which has opened the door for integrating our workforce management tools making the program more successful from the VBT perspective of not having to name the test and always having that accuracy from that point, having the ability to create more customized testing associated to trap services and things of that nature. We had more levels of support with that through VeEX. And the reporting tools as far as the auto emails on the failed test and things like that is making it easier to manage. So and we continue to work with all of our providers out there, for these different things that we need. But those were key things I think VeEX walked in the door and was already heading down that road and helped us out with.
Okay. Cyril, any of these last questions that you want to answer, or any, final thought maybe that you'd like to include?
Well, I think the home cert and the takeout process is something that is very important, and sometimes when you look at it from the beginning or you look at it from the outside, you think, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff that we need to think about. Actually, it doesn't look as big or as difficult as it looks. Once you are in it, it's kind of flow by itself, but it does provide a lot of improvement. And we've seen that through all the MSOs that we have deployed the platform. And it's quite fun, actually. It's quite a fun platform to play with, and people actually that embrace it have very, very good result. And less repeat to no repeat, and much higher quality installation, and much happier customer, and the customers don't churn to other service providers. And that's the goal. Keep your customers.
Okay, guys. Well, again, I just want to remind everybody, if we didn't get to your question, and there are some that we did not get to, we will be able to follow up with you offline. But we want to thank Mark and Cyril for joining us today. Definitely want to thank VeEX for hosting it. This is going to wrap it up. We want to thank all of you for attending.